One night, years ago, I had a nightmare where I was trapped in the Windows XP pipe screensaver. The nostalgic calm from the past turned into dread as the pipes did not disappear. They grew and grew, entangling me in their snake-like renders, the bright 3D pipes becoming bars in my digital cage. For the past 2 months, I've been trapped again in a virtual prison of my own design, a nightmare that I cannot wake up from. I'm Scramth. Gather round to listen to the Ballad of Superboy. Superboy is my league's RuneScape account. If playing normal RuneScape is like being a hamster, being slowly fed dopamine out of one of those elevated water bottles each time you gain a level, which it clearly is, the usual annual leagues is like replacing that water with original Recipe 4 Loco. Everything is supercharged, XP rates, drop rates, and you gain absolutely busted upgrades throughout the game as you accomplish tasks. A competent player could find themselves with endgame gear and stats in the time it takes me to remember my password. And even I could stumble my way further in the game than I've gotten in 2 years, in a matter of days. This is a slight problem with the central concept of my main series, Wiki Locked, in which I'm making my way through the game without using the wiki or any other informative sources or plugins. Coming out Mondays, 12/11 Central. This league does put in some restrictions to balance out the unbridled power fantasy turned real. You are locked to 5 regions in the game. To make things, I thought at the time, fair, I figured I would add another padlock to my cage and play the game mode as a chunk locked account. Not just locked to the region, but the second smallest unit of in-game measurement, the chunk. The square in-game areas that are loaded in one at a time. I have much animosity for the Scramp of 2 months ago, a sick man who thought he was creating a daring and exciting RuneScape escape challenge, who in reality made an MMORPG prison. Not even getting close to a fraction of the horrors of the US prison system, of course, but one made with the same cruel glee. Because then I decided to go with the Limport Extreme Chunk Locked rule set, which means I will have to unlock every best in slot item in the chunk, every possible skill challenge, every collection log item, and complete every diary task in the area. Limport is so much more dedicated and talented than I am, so I figured I would need all of the league bonuses to even reach a fraction of his power, and that of the Council of Chunkmen. But it gets worse. I decided that every time I reached a new league tier and got a new upgrade, I would spin a wheel of additional restrictions and punishments. We will get more into that horrible wheel later, but some possible punishments include using only my left hand, making it a hardcore account, linking my character to RuneScape 3, and a lot more. Many RuneScape videos follow their own sort of hero's journey. Our protagonist gets the drop, defeats the boss, gets the girl. Well, okay, maybe not all of it carries over. This is not one of those videos. Some RuneScape videos can be tragedies. This is a tragedy. As the days and then weeks go by, Superboy can only watch from the grates of the Varrock sewers as his fellow adventurers teleport around the world in endgame gear, like a kid in detention watching their classmates at recess. How did we end up locked in this quite literal shitty situation? Much like the circumstances of anyone's birth, complete chance. We're all just loaded into a random chunk when we're born. I selected every chunk in the starting Mistland zone, and ended up landing on one of extremes. My home is both the Varrock Castle and its sewers. Something out of a scathing class commentary thriller a la Parasite, or out of a horrible cancelled CBS pilot. There's quite a lot to be done in this chunk. Let's go through everything that we have to do in order to break out of this cell, and then I can give you a tour of the chunk. For skills, we need to get attack and defense to 40 to wield rune weapons and armor. There's a boss in this chunk, Bryophyta, that has locked away all of our rune drops that we need. The main goal in the sewers is to keep knocking her out and raiding her closet. We'll need 58 cooking to make a pita. This isn't too bad. I'm mostly just perplexed to why pitas are such a high cooking level. It's not like we're making a laminated dough with croissants. This is like a first episode Great British Bake Off technical challenge. Speaking of easy, we need to get 1 farming, which we've already achieved. Good job, everybody. And Reiki farming patch. We have to get 60 fire making for a diary task to light a yew log on top of Father Lawrence's cathedral. Is it just me, or do the diary tasks have just a little bit of like Tony Hawk Underground vibes? I mean, I wish they had a lot more, obviously. We have our highest skill at 72 for fletching, and we need to fletch a yew shield, along with 60 wood cutting to cut down the aforementioned yew logs. 58 magic, cast high level alchemy. Runes for this are going to be tricky. We're really going to have to scrounge for floor runes. We must get to 52 prayer. We have to pray at the palace church with smite active. There's 30 smithing. Use superheat item to make a steel bar. Along with magic, most concerned about how I can get that ore at all. But if the Chunk website I found just a few minutes ago says I can do it, they know what they're talking about. One of the most important skills I found out is needed for a Chunk locked account is just the ability to abandon all reason and accept the whims of your captor. Don't try to bargain or comprehend why you must do the things that you do. That's not the end of the Chunk tasks at all. Not even getting started. We have the best in slot gear to earn. From Bryophyta's lovely closet, we have to borrow a rune med helm, a rune square shield, sword, rune chain body, rune plate legs, and a battle staff. We will have to get a Zamorak robe top and bottom, as well as a steel mace from a Mage of Zamorak and a Black Knight, respectively. And that's not all. We have collection log items to earn. In order to fight Bryophyta, we will need to get Mossy Keys first on the Moss Giants. That's a collection log, as well as a long bone and curved bone from any big bone monster that we slay. And Bryophyta's essence from the fashionable lady herself. It's her new perfume line. Okay. Yeah, we can do this. Can I give you a tour? Here we have the steps of Varrock Castle. Absolutely packed with guards. Varrock isn't beating the police state allegations anytime soon. Inside the castle, you immediately see a Monk of Zamorak in an incredibly tight cell underneath the stairs, with somebody training their torture skill on them. I'm realizing now this is the poor soul we're going to be gathering our robes from. Genuinely, this is such a horrible entryway. Nothing is more welcoming than walking into a state palace and immediately seeing a prison of war being killed in front of your eyes. It's like if they opened a Guantanamo Bay pop-up on the White House lawn. Where were we? The kitchen. Here's the lovely finished palace kitchen. With state-of-the-art cooking equipment, natural light right outside the garden almost makes you forget someone is screaming in pain right down the hall. If the tortured monk in the palace foyer gave you a hint that this kingdom doesn't separate church and state, the in-house chapel will confirm it. Up on the roof, we have a giant military training facility. I had no clue this was up here, and in all likelihood, I will never return. Back on the ground in the backyard, we have the Queen's unfinished garden. All of the state's budget must have gone to Cop City up on the roof. What's next to this garden? A garden of tranquility, as some might call it. A bear in a cage. Real tranquil. At least 2 people have been fully licked clean by an encaged bear. He went right down to the bone like he was a good guest on Hot Ones. We got some big yew trees in the back here as well. We'll be back here for our big fletching grind. We have 2 churches in this chunk. Like a southern main road, we're just overflowing with chapels. This one is Father Lawrence's canonically boring cathedral. This is Bob's house. I don't know too much about this one. Tried to talk to him, and he was really rude to me. Some neighbor. Here's the real estate agent's office for those who are lucky enough to move out of the chunk. Now this chunk may not have a bank, and that's unfortunate, but it does have a barber shop. You can't store $1 million, but you can look like it. That's the neighborhood tour. But let me invite you into my real home for these past 2 months. Please take your shoes off by the mat. The damp mossy floor feels like a lived-in wet basement carpet. It has soaked up liters and liters of orange soda. It has a nice springiness to it. Just watch out for the rats. This opening foyer is much more grand and peaceful than the Varrock Gitmo upstairs. And there are a lot of rats. Got big rats and little rats. You name it, we got it. Got some rats when you walk in. Got some little rats in the corner over here. Got some more rats in the peninsula over here. They will be our closest friends and food source during our journey. Moving on. What I love about this place is that it has a lot that I want in a dream home. Like this. A hallway to nowhere. We have 2 hallways right here, one that goes to nowhere, and one hallway that leads to this room with a zombie. Once you open this door, it really starts to get dungeon-like. My basement apartment turns into the house from Barbarian. You open the door and you get an incredibly long hallway. Another zombie's hanging out here. Past the Barbarian hallway, you get to another small rat hamlet, and then to some serious undead buddies, higher level zombies and skeletons, which in going to check the spiderweb passage, fully killed me. It looks like we're ending this tour back at the Lumbridge gift shop right where we started. Feel free to grab a Cook's Assistant cake plushie, one of those worthless flat coins you crank out, an $8 water bottle, and meet me back here and we'll get started. Upon actually entering the league, I was bombarded with UI menu pop-ups informing me of how this league would operate. My Christmas morning-like frenzy to get the fun league dopamine had me clicking through this menu like crazy. Then suddenly, I was shocked to get my first task. I also did forget that we unlocked the Karamja region as well when picking my chunk, but it's too late. I came into the game knowing I was a sewer boy. This league's was always going to be a sewer boy fall. So we unlocked that region. Sick as hell animation. This is me every time I'm setting a bookmark for a new pizza place in the city. We're also offered our first relic to choose from. The options are Production Prodigy that takes production tasks and instantly completes them, possibly making extras to go to the bank as well. Boosts production skills, which I'd like to say are herblore, fletching, and cooking. Crafting, probably. There's Endless Harvest, which doubles the gathering material rate and sends materials straight to your bank. Even though my chunk Papa King Rowild is loaded, there's no bank where I can collect those materials, so it's pretty much impossible. Sorry, your direct deposit ass can sit right down. And Trickster. Lets you never fail a pickpocket, doubles pickpocketing loot, lets you gain agility levels while you run, and bulk burns 9 logs at once. Very promising choice. Not you, Endless Harvest. Get out of here. Also, let the record show, I'm still in my new toy dopamine high. I was just clicking to get my dopamine fix and accidentally chopped down a tree, gaining a level of woodcutting, and completing 2 tasks. Shit. I know I have technically broken the True Chunkman's rule, gone against the Chunkman's code by starting this before I put myself in my little cage, but I do. I punish myself and put myself in a cage like the bad little boy I am. So we're here. This is it. I'm gonna go kick the shit out of some rats. Unfortunately, it's what must be done. We stomp, smush, and straight up punch the little guys. This is a first great practice for combat. I do feel like I've gotten real life dexterity proficiency just from avoiding rats that pop out of me as I'm walking through the city. We get our 3 Tusslin stats up to 10, strength, defense, and attack. The Snowpiercer storytelling is already in place in my origins compared to the guards upstairs. They train in a state-of-the-art facility with presumably full steel armor and weaponry, and I'm stomping rats in the basement like it's DDR. We're ready to wrestle the rodents of unusual size over by the door now, and knock out our first beefy rat king and bury his bones. Speaking of beef, we will have to pocket the royal rat steak left before us. It's the best way to get that cooking up to 58, and our best source of healing, I think, forever. I so desperately hope not forever. It's a cruel inversion to the plot of Ratatouille, an original grim brother fairy tale version of the story where I team up with rats to cook, except it's by cooking hundreds of them into steaks. All of this not to open a Michelin star restaurant, but just to make a single piece of pita bread. I can't comprehend making a simple bread dough until I cook hundreds of royal rat fillets. I load up on more of the rodent meat before I'm bruised enough to have to head out of the sewers for a moment. These fellas definitely put up more of a fight, so I'll have to heat up some rat meat in the kitchen. Before we do that, I think it's time to choose our first relic. While I'm always fiending to be a little trickster, the fact that I can't pickpocket anyone and would be locked from getting half of the bonuses is a drawback. Production Prodigy will immediately help us with cooking these rat steaks. It will act as proper cooking trays to let us cook all our meat at once. Gives us a 12 level bonus and would also help with fletching, which is our highest level goal. So we're going with Production Prodigy and head to the kitchen. The kitchen is next door to the dining room, and then right past that is the throne room. So if the doors are open, the king, my chunk papa, can just watch as I try to cook rat meat, like stumbling upon a teenager cooking a cursed meal at 1 a.m. Burned quite a few of the steaks. But it's leagues, so we get 9 levels just from this one action and unlock 2 tasks for burning meat and getting total level 100. Speaking of easy tasks, we can get our one simple chunk task done pretty quickly, farming the tree patch right by our sewer door. I talk to the guard whose job it is to tend to the farming patch, the only guard in this castle who has an actual real job, and he'll sell me one for 15 coins. Well, we can scrounge for that. We've actually already gained 9 coins from the coin spawn in the little rat corner over here in the sewers. There's abundance down here. The vibes are so much nicer than in the palace upstairs. So I collect the rest, buy a rake, and farm the patch. I fill up on some more rat steaks and grill them up with a much better cookery. So many medium rare rat ribeyes were cooked at once, it's fantastic. This is what everyone that pitches an air fryer to me tries to say it's like. I'm glad I picked the air fryer perk here. Now that we're loaded up with healing options, we can try our hand at some tougher enemies, the zombies in the hallway. We haven't received any weapons that would help us in these fights. We're going for the old-fashioned hand-to-hand combat. Normally a long hallway martial arts showdown with a zombie would sound like a cool one-shot fight sequence. But in this case, and with these low levels, there's just a lot of us missing. It's less old boy and more vertical video of two people messily fighting in a gas station parking lot. I'm not helping that aesthetic by taking out handfuls of rat jerky out of my pockets to keep me going during the fight. I'm hoping we can get any sort of weapon from these zombies to begin our ascent, or rather descent, towards eventually wielding rune weaponry. We'll take what we can get for now. Before I can get any helpful weapon drops though, I get my first piece of equipment from the Freaky Forester random event. After killing a single pheasant with 3 tails, which is nothing after commandeering then successfully operating a chicken processing plant on Wiki Locked, this was nothing. And here we are with our first piece of equipment. A nice pair of shorts, along with some knee-high socks. And even though these socks provide us with no additional defense, and if anything should penalize us for having our knees out in deadly combat, my confidence is up enough to head towards skeletons. And they're quite a bit stronger, they mess us up pretty badly, but from them we get an iron dagger, which not only is our first weapon, it also significantly extends our sewer home. By cutting through this web, we unlock the deep Varrock sewers, which will be pretty important to us. This is where Bryophyta and her moss giants are. Our training against rats and zombies with poor coordination will be leading us eventually to here. I also completely forget that there's an agility shortcut at the very end of this moss zone that leads us to an entirely different dungeon. It's an agility shortcut that if we took the Trickster perk, we would have eventually been able to unlock. Hell, these corridors are so long, we'd probably unlock it just on the walk here. That stings a bit. It's the first feeling of League regret. This new area does provide us with some necessary items, being an axe and a knife. I think that axe is also a better weapon than the iron dagger, so we'll be fighting with it. These 2 items are all we'll need to get on our fletch and grind, so let's use the perk we did choose and start making useless pieces of wood. We are rewarded immediately with some level dopamine, as our first inventory of logs gives us 11 fletching levels off the bat. On our second inventory of logs, we get a beginner clue, and in leagues they stack. Though I collect them initially, I realized it's useless to hold on to them. I'm still holding myself to the Wiki Locked rules and not checking any wikis or using informative plugins, so first of all, the clues are going to appear like real gibberish to me. Second, even if I can comprehend what the hint is, what are the chances it'll be a one-step clue in the one chunk that I'm in that doesn't even have any beginner clue steps? Safe to say we'll be using these as kindling when we get our fire-making levels. I apologize to all the Nicolas Cage treasure hunting birds that are gonna keep sending me clues to endless vast treasure, but I'm sorry I can't go on your globe-spanning adventures. My chunk papa won't let me. While woodcutting, I'll also be attacking any pesky little imps I see. Their mischievous drop table has quite a bit of useful things for us. From a tinderbox to all the ingredients for pita bread to a wizard's hat. The first drop I get from them that I need is a bucket of water, and then so shortly after that I forget to record, I get the blue wizard's hat. 2 drops down and we are looking so fly. A homemade wooden shield, an axe, pulled up pair of shorts, knees out, tall socks, and the iconic blue wizard hat. This is someone you do not want to fuck with. You see this man and you go on your way, for he is on a road you cannot comprehend, but deeply fear. We continue to cut down beautiful trees and turn them into ugly, useless, unfinished bows that will only be good as back scratchers. At least a few of them are transferred to my bank every time I fletch, thanks to my production prodigy relic. In the case that I ever make it to a chunk with a bank, I'm going to be greeted to a vault with unfinished bows and a lot of room temperature rat steaks. I've always been curious about the RuneScape bank situation with food. Is your bank stash a walk-in fridge? We keep on this grind and get 50 wood cutting. I take a look at the task list and realize there are a few I can get done right now. So we make 1,000 arrow shafts, and pray to restore more than 5 prayer points. I take down another imp and grab a pot of flour. So now we have our cooking ingredients to make pita. Now it's just getting the tinderbox and we're all set. I guess we're set. Happened again so quickly I forgot to record. Here we are, everything is going according to plan. So now we can start to fire make. Again, regretfully, we do not have the trickster relic, so we'll have to light fires the old-fashioned way, by making a campfire conga line. We burn regular logs, then oak. We keep on doing this, cutting down oak logs, then slaloming between the trees, lighting fires, a maneuver that would infuriate Smokey the Bear if he could see me. Oh wait, he can! The reboot of Smokey the Bear, where he has to fight prisoners in a cage while he's helpless to stop forest fires being set behind him, is in the same universe as my gritty Ratatouille story. So we cut, fletch, burn, and repeat, only stopping to toss away any useless treasure maps these birds keep pushing on me, and eventually we get to 60 fletching, and with our 12-point production prodigy bonus, we're able to make a U shield. We'll need 40 defense to wield it, but we'll be back absolutely throwing down in the sewers, and we'll be able to equip it in no time. Get that all the way up to 60 so we can burn U logs. We cut a U log at the top of Father Lawrence's canonically boring cathedral, complete a diary, and a chunk task. Here's where I was wishing old school RuneScape was just a little bit more like Tony Hawk Underground 2, which I know people are always saying and it's become a redundant, stale conversation. But there should be a silly little cutscene for each task you complete. Like once I lit that fire, a flare should have been sent out and a helicopter full of gnomes could like show up and whisk me away. But no, we're still here. I'm finding myself becoming a bit less motivated, a bit more tired after this initial grind. Maybe it's because I haven't been getting my vitamin S. Vitamin sewer, of course, I miss being down there. But before we go, we've spent so long on these tree grinds and are pretty close to some significant point tasks that will get us to our next relic and next punishment. I don't know if you've forgotten about that, but I have. I'm realizing it's not like the odds are already stacked against me, but I've already made the wheel. I've already signed my own contract. We're now at the point where we can pick our new relic. This level is almost a joke to us, because they're both teleportation based, so we're really not going to use them at all. This relic tier does increase our XP gain to 8 times though, which is huge, of course. As for the relic, I go with Fairy Flight, because it allows us to teleport to the Green Thumb Cop outside the palace, so at least I can teleport out of the sewers if I need. Well, that's enough rewards for now. Time for punishment. I present to you the Wheel of Torture. Let's see what we can win. We have Tile Locked, which would add the Tile Man restriction. You may know this from Settled's recently concluded Tile Man series. I'm already chunk locked, so I might as well be locked to the individual tiles that make up the game. In order to move a single space, I need to get a certain amount of XP, which of course will be balanced to account for the rapid League XP rates. This is pretty similar to my existing system of having to do errands before I can give myself a little treat. There is Social Locked, where I will turn off public chat and all other people, where I will turn off public chat and hide all other people around me. Less of a concrete in-game challenge and more of a symbolic mental one. I've begun to venture on my own strange, lonesome path, and this challenge will really make me face that. This one isn't too tricky, as playing RuneScape in general social locks you in one way or another. How about UI Locked? That's removing all in-game UI that's not necessary, like spells, prayers, and inventory. So that means not being able to check my current levels, my minimap, my health, and what I can unlock at future levels. So if you're looking for some gritty realism, this is the challenge for you. Capitalism Locked. I will not be able to spend gold in exchange for goods and services, nor can I use any other currency / shop that's just a copycat of the capitalist system. Ultimate Ironman. We abide by the rules of Ultimate Ironman and cannot use a bank. Not directly related to Capitalism Locked, but they do share similar beliefs in how banks prop up oppressive systems. Hardcore. If we ever die, we will have to rid ourselves of all the equipment we have gained. And that includes anything in the bank, in the case we even have one. But wait, what's a Wheel of Torture without a spin-off Wheel of Super Torture? If we land here, then we move to another spin-off wheel of even worse fates. Reality Locked. This one's a bit more complicated, but basically for every level gained, I will have to train a similar skill in real life. You can tell from the constant rat talk, I live in New York City, so I'm not excited to figure out what I'm going to do for fishing and woodcutting. Magic 8-Ball Locked. This one's a lot more simple. Before I begin a grind or plan the game, I will have to run it by the Magic 8-Ball first. Novel Locked is an interesting one. For every task I complete, I will have to update a full novelization of my League's character and his journey. Guitar Hero Locked. We're getting a bit more absurd in this wheel. For this challenge, every task I complete, I will also need to get a 100% full combo score on an expert Guitar Hero song. There's also the option of having to roll twice and pick 2 challenges. And what's a spin-off wheel of Super Torture without another spin-off wheel of Ultimate Torture? In the tragic case, we land on the wheel of Super Torture, and then here, some real dire things are ahead. Lefty Locked. I will have to switch to using my left hand for all clicking and typing and movement. RuneScape 3 Locked. Every major task I complete for the chunk, I will also have to do in RuneScape 3. If possible. I've never played it, I don't know how different it is. And there's the possibility that I will have to pick 3 challenges. Wheel of Respite. Now landing on here is a miracle. We then go to our final spin-off wheel, which is actually one of peace and healing, where I can remove a challenge or have a treat. Spin the wheel and I land on the wheel of Super Torture. So now we're going off to our spin-off wheel and land on having to pick 2 challenges. So we're gonna need to spin the godforsaken wheel of torture 2 more times and get UI locked and hardcore. I remove all XP drops and overlays, the minimap along with my current health and prayer, which is great not to know now which is perfect not to know right now because with hardcore, if I die, I'm getting rid of all my stuff. So I'm real excited to be anxious and overly cautious with all combat, and so stoked to not get to see the heightened XP rates I just unlocked. Such is the life of a sewer boy, a tragic tale, where for every victory, 3 more self-imposed L's come with, as we head back downward, back to the sewers, back to where the grinds maybe will feel less like work and more like home.